So the price of Bitcoin is up by over 60% in the past 2 months, pumping from all the way at $15,500 in November to today being worth over $25,000 at the time of recording. So naturally, a lot of people have a lot of questions. They're asking, is Bitcoin bear market over? Are we about to enter a new 4-year Bitcoin cycle? And is the new Bitcoin bull run just beginning? So we're going to attempt to answer all of those questions in that video, and we're going to be talking about whether Bitcoin has in fact bottomed or not. So without further ado, let's get straight into this one. So welcome back to the Money Matters podcast that is powered by CoinBeast. If you are new here, my name is Luke and I'm going to be the host of this video where we're going to be discussing the Bitcoin halving. Okay, we're going to be discussing whether Bitcoin has in fact bottomed or not. So if we're going to start talking about Bitcoin price action and Bitcoin cycles and trying to explain why the price of Bitcoin is very volatile and it goes up and down every 4 years, we have to start at the Bitcoin halving. So understanding the Bitcoin halving is essential because a lot of people, they see the volatility of Bitcoin. Well, a lot of these people, we actually call them pre-coiners and no-coiners. They see the volatility of Bitcoin. They see it go up, they see it go down, they see it go up, they see it go down. They don't know why. They think it's just Tulip Mania 2.0. They think it's Beanie Babies. They think it's a fad, and they don't actually understand that this is how an emergent disruptive technology goes from 0% adoption to 100% adoption. And Bitcoin is very interesting because it is a technology that is currently going through that adoption cycle. Today, Bitcoin's adoption is probably around 5%, but Bitcoin has these halvings every 4 years that systematically drive these hype cycles or these bull markets that we see on average every 4 years. So I've actually pulled up a chart here and you guys can see a pretty simple pattern. I've simplified it, but typically you see the price of Bitcoin rise for 3 years, okay? And then that is signified by the green boxes. And then you can see Bitcoin goes through a period of red, okay? A period of decline in price action for around a year. And that is because the price of Bitcoin gets a little bit ahead of itself. We get ahead of our skis. There's too many normies investing in Bitcoin. It's a little bit euphoric, and any euphoric parabolic bull run always has a little bit of a blow off top and a reversion back to the mean. And what I really want to talk about today is how the halvings drive this and how the upcoming halving is going to affect this hype cycle. So what is a Bitcoin halving for the new people? Now, most new people to Bitcoin would look at this maths equation and say, nope, that's it. I'm done. I'm not trying to wrap my head around this ridiculous looking maths equation. But this is the equation that ensures that Bitcoin has a supply halving every 4 years. Now, I'm going to give you the simplified version of this maths equation that Satoshi Nakamoto came up with over 4 years ago. And all that really complicated equation says is every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that gets created or minted is going to be cut in half every 4 years, okay? So this chart kind of breaks it down nicely. For the first 4 years of Bitcoin's life, the miners were paid 50 Bitcoin for securing and checking a block of transactions on the Bitcoin network, okay? That's it. Very simple. I'm not going to get into depth about what mining is. Think about mining like this. All the miners are doing is there are people all around the world checking the rules of Bitcoin, and they're packaging all of the transactions into blocks. And if a miner successfully finds a block, he gets paid Bitcoin that is being created. And every 10 minutes, on average, a miner will find a new block of transactions and he gets paid for his work. Okay, his work is very valuable because it costs a lot of electricity and energy and time in actually running the computer software that is able to create these Bitcoin blocks. Not going to get any more complicated in today's video, but what we want to talk about is how this Bitcoin halving affects price. So you can see in 2012, we had the first Bitcoin halving, and the amount of new Bitcoins that were being created and distributed onto the network was cut in half, and now miners were only paid 25 Bitcoin. Again, we had another halving in 2016. The amount of Bitcoin paid to the miners was cut in half to 12.5 Bitcoin. And our most recent halving in 2020, the supply paid to the miners for securing the network was cut in half to 6.25 Bitcoin, not to be confused with the 6.15 Bitcoin meme. But you can see this will continue, and we are due for the next Bitcoin halving in 2024. And this very complicated maths equation that we touched on here. And this Bitcoin halving is what creates the hype cycles, okay? So on this chart, I have 4 vertical white lines drawn on the chart. And you guys can see that the price of Bitcoin tends to appreciate around those white lines. And that is because those white lines signify the Bitcoin halving, okay? So if you are new to the Bitcoin space, think about it like this. People are using Bitcoin all around the world every day. They're transacting Bitcoin with each other. They're using Bitcoin to escape their local banking system. You know, most people in the West are unaware of this, but right now, as we speak, there are hundreds of millions of people in Nigeria, Venezuela, Colombia, Latin America, and Africa who are using Bitcoin transactionally every single day because it is simply better money than the money they use. So let's think about this hypothetically. If people are using Bitcoin at around the same rate every single day, and then all of a sudden the new amount of Bitcoin that gets distributed into the Bitcoin economy or the Bitcoin network is cut in half during these Bitcoin halvings, what is going to happen? Okay, this is your economics 101 lesson. Less supply, and you've got the same amount of demand, same amount of people transacting Bitcoin. The price of that thing has to go up. And you can see that illustrated here by the chart. Every halving, you typically see a Bitcoin bull run. So again, 2012, we saw the halving. Bitcoin rallied from around $1.40 all the way up to $1,300. Again, 2016, we had that halving, and Bitcoin ran all the way up from around $200 in 2015, over $20,000 in that 2017 crazy Bitcoin mania and parabolic blow off top that we saw. And again, we saw that halving in 2020. Bitcoin pumped from the coronavirus lows at $3,000 all the way up to $69,000 a pop. And we have the halving coming up in 2024. A lot of people are asking, okay, what's going to go on with Bitcoin? And now a lot of people are asking, because the halving is coming up, they're asking, okay, is our 1 year period of declines over for Bitcoin? Well, I have a few charts that I want to run you guys through that suggest maybe, just maybe, Bitcoin has bottomed and we're ready to begin a new bull market. And again, I want to move forward on the preface. I don't care about price predictions. This is not a price prediction video. Anybody who tells you they know where the price of Bitcoin is going over the next weeks or months, they're probably lying to you, because nobody knows. But this is just some patterns that I've noticed in Bitcoin, okay? So first, we're going to take a look at how long these Bitcoin bear markets, or these 1 year period of declines, have been on average. So again, the first one I want to look at is over here in 2014. Bitcoin peaked out at around $1,300 a pop, bottomed out at around $150 a pop, and you can see that we had 426 days of declines in that bear market. Again, in 2018, we saw something similar. Bitcoin crashed from 20,000 down to 3,000, and it actually took 365 days to reach a bottom in the price of Bitcoin. So notice the similarity between those first two bear markets, both around 1 year in length. And again, what have we seen in 2022? Well, Bitcoin topped out in November 2022 around, $69,000 a pop. And if we move forward on the assumption that $15,500 was the bottom for Bitcoin, well, that means Bitcoin actually took 365 days to go from 69K to 15K. So that's the same amount of time as what we saw in 2018, and a similar amount of time to what we saw in 2014. So if we're looking at Bitcoin just from a timing perspective, maybe we've bottomed. We've been declining for a long time. Now, another metric that I like to look at, or another thing that I think is maybe just interesting to take a little bit of a look at, is this thing called the 200-day moving average. Again, I don't like moving averages. I don't like charts. This is not TA astrology. I'm not a fan of all of this. Again, I'm not a fan of any of this, but it's interesting because on the chart, I have 5 circles, and every single time that Bitcoin has popped above the 200-day moving average, what you've seen is Bitcoin has typically started a new bull market. And the 200-day moving average is interesting, or I wouldn't say important, because I don't think it's important, but a lot of the trader bros and macro analysts look at the 200-day moving average as a very important metric. They say that whenever stocks or equities are above that 200-day moving average, it's in a bull market, and when it's below the 200-day moving average, it's in a bear market. And it's just interesting, Bitcoin has also followed this very similar pattern. And what's most interesting is Bitcoin has popped above the 200-day moving average and looks to be holding above it for the first time in 12 months, which suggests, hey, maybe, just maybe, Bitcoin is ready to start a new 4-year cycle. And we can see every single time we've broken out above of this, downtrending diagonal trend line, and we've popped above the 200-day moving average, Bitcoin typically has initiated a new bull market, and that is what we're seeing today in early 2023. So again, that's something interesting to look at. Something else I want to look at is the drawdowns from all-time highs. So in 2012, Bitcoin crashed 93%. In 2014, Bitcoin crashed 86%. In 2018, Bitcoin crashed 83%. And today, if we assume the bottom is in, again, nobody knows, I don't care about short-term price prediction. If we assume the bottom's in, Bitcoin's crashed by 77%. So that would either suggest, okay, maybe Bitcoin's bottom's not quite in based on previous historical bear markets, or maybe it suggests something different. Maybe it suggests that Bitcoin is becoming a mature asset, and every single large bear market we have, the percentage decline of price action that Bitcoin declines by is decreasing every single time. Or maybe it suggests that Bitcoin is maturing as an asset, and every single bear market we go through, Bitcoin is becoming more and more valuable, and more people are noticing that, and more people are buying Bitcoin cheap on the discount. And that's why we're not seeing these large 93 or 86% corrections like we did in 2012 and 2014. Again, it's a possibility. It's something I'm looking at. So is the Bitcoin bottom in? Honestly, who knows? And this is the first Bitcoin bull market that we are actually correlated to the macroeconomic scene. So for the first 12 years of Bitcoin's life, Bitcoin wasn't really correlated to macro that much, okay? And we were in a different macroeconomic environment. From 2008 to 2020, we were largely in this era of QE infinity. Central banks were printing money, central banks were lowering interest rates. And then in 2022, we saw something we've never really seen before in Bitcoin's life. Central banks attempted to raise interest rates and stop printing money. And that is obviously interesting that it correlated with Bitcoin's bear market. And there's a lot of competing schools of thought as to what actually drives these Bitcoin 4-year bull markets. Is it, the halving, or is it liquidity in the system? Lynn Alden's done some great work showing that Bitcoin could actually be a little bit more correlated to the liquidity flows in the system. So again, they're the two kind of competing thoughts. I don't know what's causing it, but it's interesting right now that liquidity is being pumped back into the system, okay? Central banks all around the world have capitulated on raising rates, and the only central bank right now that is still attempting to raise interest rates and withdraw liquidity from the system is the US Fed, okay? If you look at the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the ECB, the European Central Bank, and my personal favorite, the RBA, Reserve Bank of Australia, all those clown shows are printing money again, and they've kind of halted their interest rate rises. So be on the lookout. If the central bank of the US also joins them and pauses interest rates and maybe even begins printing money again in the latter part of 2023, be on the lookout. This could be an enormous tailwind for Bitcoin, and who knows where the price of Bitcoin is going to go with the tailwind of printing money, combined with the fact that there is a shrinking amount of Bitcoin on exchanges for sale every single day. Okay, again, in 2020, I continue to hammer this point home. For the first time in Bitcoin's life in 2020, the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges began to decline. Okay, and in 2020, there was something like 3.1 million coins on exchanges available for sale. Today, there's around 2.2 million. So that means 35% of all the available Bitcoin has been taken off the exchanges, and it is sitting in wallets who we don't know is holding them, but we do know they don't have a history of selling thanks to on-chain data. So who's buying Bitcoin? Is it nation states? Is it large corporations like Michael Saylor and Elon Musk who are buying Bitcoin quietly? Who knows? But it's going to be very interesting. If that trend continues from what we've seen in 2020 to 2023, there's going to be zero Bitcoin left on exchanges in 2027. So who knows what that's going to do to the Bitcoin price? I have my theories, but that's for another video. With all that said, guys, I'm going to leave you with that one. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think Bitcoin's bottomed, and do you think we're beginning a new 4-year bull market cycle? I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, feel free to slap a like on it and subscribe to the channel so you're notified for when I drop a next video like this. And I will see you all in the next video.